All right, so I want to talk about um, how to actually get over social anxiety at school. And I think that this is a really important thing because I have to deal with this on a regular basis. And this is something that I really struggle with. And I think lots of people struggle with this. And I don't know what the right answers are, but I know this is how I actually deal with it. So if you don't know me, I am Professor Dave Maslach. I'm Associate Professor of Innovation Strategy and Entrepreneurship. And I create this whole reciprocity project to give back as much as I possibly can. There's so many people who help me out that I want to pay the favor for to help you out as much as I possibly can. So if you didn't know who I was growing up, when I was younger, I was incredibly shy. I did not like to be around people. I really liked people and I wanted to be part of who they are. And I desperately wanted to be liked, but I didn't. I'm very kind of insecure. I'm very I have a lot of social anxiety. So with anybody more than maybe it's two or three people, I don't like those kind of groups. Although I'm getting used to it and I'm being a lot better at that. However, I still get a tremendous amount of social anxiety when I'm around other people. I get those that gut feeling of I'm being stupid. I get really nervous. Speaking up is it's so hard for me to go from saying something to actually saying something in a group. It is crazy. And then whenever I say something, it often feels like, oh, I've said the wrong thing because I'm off in nowhere. And my mind is wandering when I'm in a larger group and it's hard for me to follow for many things. And part of this, I think, has to do with the fact that I have ADHD and I'm growing up with this. But I want to talk about how I actually deal with this. And it's not perfect. And I wouldn't say I'm a pro with this, but I'm getting better. But maybe when I'm 80 years old, I'm gonna just say screw it, and I'm just gonna do my thing, right? At that point, maybe not. So the first thing I think is so important that you need to destigmatize the fact that you have this social anxiety and just speak openly about who you are. That's who you are, and you can't change that. Tell your story. I think the more that you tell your story and you focus on you, the more that it's really interesting to hear some of these things, right? So it's hard for anybody, and part of the reason is you're with social anxiety is you think somebody's going to yell at you, or you have these sort of nerves. You feel like you've got these nerves in your stomach, but who's going to yell at you for telling your story or telling what you're about? And that's hard to do as somebody that experiences. I know. Because I'm never going to be that person that tells these very long, elaborate stories and all that kind of stuff that has, can sort of follow along. I'm the question person. I ask questions, I've learned, but I don't really sort of tell a lot. And that's part of the reason is I have the social anxiety that I deal with. And the second thing I think is super important is to realize that you don't need to be outgoing. That's the big myth that we have, right? Everybody thinks that you have to be outgoing, but you don't really need to be. There's plenty of successful people. There's plenty of people in this world that do amazing, and they're not outgoing, and they're just who they are, right? So I think it's realizing part of this is the insecurity of the fact that you think that you should be outgoing, but you don't need to be, right? You could be just exactly who you are, and that is pretty cool. And once you get comfortable with that sort of fact that you are who you are, that's pretty amazing, right? So just becoming proud of who you are and you don't have to change anything and just kind of be more of who you are. That's a big difference than I have to change everything and I'm problematic and there's all these, flaws that I have, but I want to be more of who I am. That's really cool. If anybody laughs at you, so this is the third thing to realize, or if you get nervous, first of all, that's them with their own social anxiety dealing with the fact that you are being nervous, right? And so nervous reaction to the nervous reaction we get is, we get a couple of ways, right? We get embarrassed, we get, sad or anxious, or we want to cry. But another thing is to laugh. That's why comedians tell dirty jokes all the time. If you didn't know that, it's our response to an awkward situation is to laugh, because we don't know what to deal with that, right? Like, it's a natural response. So, if that happens, chalk it up as like, this is kind of funny. But then, if they're mean to you, that means that they are just a giant, I don't know how to politely say this. They are a giant, hullabaloo. They're not being nice in any sort of way. And you have to think about, like, who the heck do they think they are? They've got like all sorts of problems. They're a giant disaster if they're behaving like that. If somebody behaves like that, that means that they are extremely problematic and they have so much to deal with. They are such a disaster because that they have no empathy for somebody that is going through an experience like that. And you can't like deal with this, that they are just a giant wreck inside. So realize that is an important thing to realize. It has nothing to do with you. It has everything to do with them. It is absolutely everything to do with them. If they can't make you feel comfortable and make you feel like, oh, this is actually not too bad, they're screwed up in the head. They really are, and they have to deal with this themselves and process what's going on. So they are, and this is the fourth thing that is super important, that's helped me out so much in the last few years, is that when people make fun of you, they're hurt people, right? Normal people that are adjusted, they help other people, right? Like, they don't make fun of other people. They don't hurt them in any sort of way. They help them out. They encourage them. They do good things for them. That's what a normal human being actually does. It took me so long to figure this out, right? Like, normal human beings don't go hurting other people. In fact, there is this really popular sort of terminology that is in business speak. It's called psychological safety. The more that you feel it's okay to share and to talk and to be open, the better everybody actually is. And, almost all research, no matter what way you look at it, almost all research, uniformly on people, on individuals, almost always says that this, like, just allowing people to be normal, like, be themselves and to be open, has performance implications that are unbelievable. Right? Like, that is the number one predictor that's going to implode a group, that's going to implode an organization, that is going to destroy an organization, is if you can't speak openly, you don't feel okay with who you are. Like that, you got to remember that says something, right? So normal people encourage other people to do well, right? So if they're making fun of you, they are really, and I'm not saying, like, I'm not stigmatizing those folks, but I'm just saying that they are hurt people, right? And that they're dealing with their own problems that are much larger than what you're dealing with at this moment. That's a super important thing. I think an important thing that I struggle with, because, with social anxiety, you really analyze everything, right? And you think about, like, what is wrong with me? And I've got all these things and all that kind of stuff. But you got to laugh with your awkwardness, right? Like, you're awkward, and that's okay. If you're awkward, like that's cool. If you're awkward, that means you're human. You've got things going on, and that is totally fine. As being okay with your awkwardness, I think is super important for all of us to deal with this stuff. And the more that, and this is the problem with, and I didn't really understand, we label everything, right? Like, so medical professionals have a tendency to label everything and label all this stuff. But in reality, we just have neurodiversity, and we think about things in different ways. And those labels are not hard and fixed in any sort of way, right? Like, if you actually look at how they measure this kind of stuff, I would, as a person that understands, like, research methods, I would almost, like, throw it out, because it is so, like, arbitrary in how this stuff is. But it's a way to sort of get an understanding of what's going on. So it's not necessarily like you're this thing. You're you. And, everybody is different. And we just have groups of what these differences are. So laugh at your awkwardness. Laugh at, like, you just being you. And I think that's, a last thing that I want to point out, and this is so vitally important for all of us, is if you feel like this is holding you back in any sort of way, go and talk to somebody. Actually invest the time to talk to somebody to work through this, like a mental health professional, or, even if it's your dad or your mom or whatever, right? Like, go and just talk to somebody about walking through this. And if you find somebody that's going to be helpful, that's all, a mental health professional really is that there's somebody that just understands this stuff a little bit more, but they're walking you through, they're guiding you. So if you know of somebody that's, good colleague or something that can walk you through this stuff, by all means do it. Like, why wouldn't you? Like, it makes no sense why you wouldn't, right? So, okay, the one excuse that I always use, I don't have time for this thing, the benefit that you get from the cost of expending this effort often outweighs so much of that time, but it takes a little bit of time to get that benefit, right? Actually, if you're so me, I benefited like almost instantly. Within a couple of weeks from doing these kind of things, going and talking to somebody, right? So I've seen mental health professionals. I've talked to family and friends, and I'm okay. I'm not going to turn into a pumpkin. So with that, give me a thumbs up to subscribe to the YouTube channel. Take care and have a wonderful day. Bye.